Oh my God.
Thank you for everyone's patience.
Test all this before.
Hey,
Hey, I'm gonna try to FaceTime you.
I'm ready to go over there and watch the YouTube feed for a minute.
Huh? Myself right before I went back on. Hold on.
No, you get to be there.
And I see if I can FaceTime Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
you can't see any of you, but you can see her.
Hi, Seth.
Hey, hey.
Hey.
So we can join you. Okay, well, I'll put you up here with, you can share my square with me.
I'm gonna put it here after this meeting.
Okay. Well, you're on with everybody and everybody can see you and hear you. Yeah.
Hello.
She can't hear you, but you can. Okay, are we such that I can call this meeting to order? Joe?
Yes, you're good.
We don't have Scott.
Lorelai just trying to call me.
Okay. Okay. Okay, well then you can just be on audio. Okay.
Okay, Stephanie, you're on hold. Thank you.
We don't have Scott Hovis.
Nod, yes. Okay, great. Also, could you,
Anybody heard from Scott?
I see Scott.
Yep, Scott's on.
We're having trouble hearing Stephanie.
Yes. Yes, I can.
Yes, you're good.
Scott,
Hovis?
are you here, Scott?
Yeah, but it's gonna be kind of hard for
I'm here.
people to
I hear you.
get the board doc and be on Zoom at the same time. Just bring it in here, we'll pass it. You have one, a paper copy, just bring it in here, don't make a copy.
Scott's on now.
Scott? Okay, then I'm gonna. Oh, it's dark though, they can't see me. Okay. All right. I moved. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Lorelai.
Can anyone
No, it's breaking up.
Yeah, it's breaking up a lot.
You can. Okay. It's breaking up.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay. We were at Steve Bruce. Are you here? Can anybody hear that? Steve?
Mute.
Lindsay Rowden,
Can't hear me?
Ken
I'm
Enlow,
here.
Stephanie Johnson,
Can you hear me? Are you here? Lindsay, can you hear me? No.
Lindsay, could you say something, a thumbs up if you hear us?
okay, I've got everything.
I can hear you guys.
Lindsay can hear us.
I can get off and just do voice.
It's okay.
It's the one you gave me.
Next, we'll ask Lorelei to approve the agenda. So thank you guys for your patience.
You want a different laptop for Lorelei? What about this laptop?
I don't know why it's not.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yes, okay,
Yes.
I'm on Ryan's computer now, we'll share. Okay, so we did roll call, now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, I guess. This ought to be interesting. All right, you ready?
All right.
Find a flag in your area.
Find a flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, so now we have approval of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Okay, so.
All right. Next, we want to recognize Steve Bruce for his service to this board for the last six years. And he is outgoing this year. Larry, you want to take this over?
Absolutely. We have here a plaque that we would virtually like to present to you. We'll get this to you in person. I'll read what it says. Steve Bruce, Board of Education, 2014 through 2020. He was treasurer in 2015 and 16. He was vice president in 2016 and 17. And he was president 2017, 2019. He was the MSBA Regional Executive Committee Chair for Region 6. He was the MSBA Leadership Development Committee member. He was also MSBA Region 6 Regional Executive Committee member. He was MSBA Federal Relations Network member, and he is an advanced certified board member. With our gratitude for your time, talent, and support of our students, parents, and staff, we appreciate your standard of excellence and your contribution to the future of our district. from the Jefferson City School District Board of Education, Administration, staff, and students in April here of 2020. So Steve, we'd like to say thank you personally. You were on the board when I was hired in 2015, so I'd like personally, publicly here say thank you and appreciate all your service to not only through the board, but ultimately our kids and our community and our parents. So Steve, thank you, and we'll get this to you in a more official capacity other than virtually here through this meeting. So Steve, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Steve would like to say a word or two there in response, or you don't have to, that's up to you.
You're on mute,
You're
Steve.
muted.
Thank you, Jason. Always watching my back. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, Larry. I'll be really brief because I know you guys have a full agenda to get through this evening and the board reorganization. But you know, I wouldn't trade my time on the board for anything. And I promised myself I wouldn't get overly emotional whenever when these remarks came, when I had the opportunity to share them. And so I'll just say that I've really enjoyed getting to work with a number of you all. You've got my eternal gratitude and respect for the work that you guys do every day on behalf of our kids and families, the professionalism that you show in the face of all the challenges that you guys experience. And a lot of that's not known, and I wish it were better known than it is, but we're working on that. And I look forward to continuing to be able to support you on the sidelines and helping out public education where I can in my hometown school district. You know, my main goal is to leave it better than I found it whenever I started on the board, and I hope I've been able to do that in some small way. And if I have, then any of that wouldn't have been possible without my wife, Kim, the girls' support, Sophia and Abigail, and my employer, Central Bank, has a lot to do with that. They are really a community-oriented company, and they have been Dave Minton and the leadership crew there, Ken Littlefield, Dave Meyer, Don Perdue. They have been just nothing but supportive of our school district and my service. So thanks to them. Thank God for the opportunity to be able to work with you all and to serve our kids. So thanks for giving me a couple of moments to have the floor, and appreciate the recognition. Thank you all.
Thank you, Steve.
All right. Thank you, Steve. On to the consent agenda items. I need, we've got approval of the minutes, approval of transfer of funds, approval of financials, and approval of disbursements. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now we're going to go on to communications. Larry?
Yes, I'd like to first just thank you guys for your patience. We know this is kind of a first for us as far as a virtual board meeting here. So it's like looking at the Hollywood squares, except we're the JC School squares. So thank you guys for your patience here as we work through this. A few things I just want to touch on with regards to my report. We're closed right now. I think most of, obviously we know that these are uncharted waters. We've set 2 goals that we'll get into more details later, but making sure our kids have food and making sure that our kids are learning and giving them the best chance to be successful. So we've had a lot of folks that have been a part. I would like to just a couple recognize and share. Dana in our food service has just done a tremendous job. Jason might touch on her later here, but as far as coordinating meals for our students, we're close to 1,300 meals today, and that number continues to increase. So we are super excited and we appreciate her. And then Jill Martin as well. As far as the Wi-Fi devices, I hear even tonight the challenges that we have here of making this happen. So thanks to those two. There's been a lot of other folks, but I did want to recognize Dana and Joe and how much we appreciate their efforts. We are been a part of the Cole County Coalition of all the county schools ourselves: Russellville, Eugene, Blair Oaks, Helias, Calvary, Trinity, Lighthouse, River Oaks. As far as our county schools with the closures, having a unified togetherness as we work through these uncharted waters. Yeah, we want to beat the other one on the field, but when it comes to in the big scheme of things, we're in this together. So the coalition, we had a unified announcement here a couple of weeks ago and worked with them, and I thought that was a positive, not only for us but all of us, and we've had a lot of positive feedback with that. Our kitchen workers delivering meals, Jason's going to touch on that a little bit, but I just wanted to thank them. I also want to recognize Culver's. Culver's is going to be providing lunch to our kitchen workers this Friday. Alan reached out to me, and thank you to Culver's and Lorelei, your help with that, how much we appreciate him and their partnership with our school district. And so we're going to have a treat for our kitchen workers this Friday. We want to thank them for that. I've been a part of the governor's task force. We've met twice as we discussed the closure, summer school, the reentry process as far as back into school, and then Wi-Fi accessibility has come in for the things that we touched on. And so there's more, again, uncharted waters for all of us. But as a school district, we believe that we've talked about being stronger together. That it does take a village, that we want to be the light in the time of some challenging times, and then be that stability in the days of uncharted waters. I do want to touch on graduation plans. We have a working document of questions that we have. One I just wanted to touch on with regards to JC High School. Our seniors at Jeff City High School, this has been very challenging for them with regards to the renovations, other challenges that we've provided them. They'll have memories, I'm sure, at their class reunions down the road as far as the challenges that they face, that when they tell their kids about them, they may say, "You what?" I think that would be a story. You know, right now in the heart of it, it's a challenge for them. We appreciate their patience and their parents as we work through this. Right now, we have scheduled graduation for May 17th. We'd like that to happen, but realistically, it won't. But as of right now, it's still scheduled for the 17th. And we want to have that graduation, the formalized graduation that is scheduled, even if it's delayed. Last week, early middle of last week, Brenda Hatfield had sent out a survey to our parents at Jeff City High School, parents and some students as well. And they all overwhelmingly shared that they wanted to have a normal graduation, even if it was delayed. And so whether it's in June or July, we're planning on doing that. The only way we might have a virtual graduation would be if the congregating or no congregating continue clear into the fall. At this time, you know, we might have some type of virtual graduation here in May or June, and then have a celebration after that was lifted. But it's too early to tell. We just wanted to share, and thank you to Brenda Hatfield for kind of facilitating that as a senior parent herself. And we appreciate our parents' patience with that. So that's something plans that we'll have more information on as the closure that the government did recommend a closure for the rest of the school year. And our school year ends on May 28th. So that's where we have a closure, but committed to providing a learning environment as best we can virtually, and also providing meals for our families as well. Wanted to just touch on this COVID. We have a lot of questions, and we know folks have a lot of questions at all. Here's just a few questions that we know folks have that we're working through. It's kind of a working document that we've identified. When and where the Chromebooks, will they be returned? How will we disinfect, log any damages? How do students get artwork or other projects back? When will they get their yearbooks if they ordered them? When and how do parents get lunch money back or transfer to another student's account? When can students collect items out of their lockers or their classrooms? At the elementary, their desk items being picked up? When and where and how do students turn in hard copies of work being completed? When and where and how do parents, students collect prescription medicine from the nurse? What about rescheduling events or planning for remote options? Prom, baccalaureate, National Honor Society, the Seal of Excellence Awards, vocal music, band concerts, 5th grade promotions, kindergarten open house and screenings, and etc. There are just so many things that we're working through those, and we'll communicate and be proactive with that. If we're still considering summer school, which we are, can we offer an online registration process? The Google Forms or otherwise, we're going to work through those. What about Senate Bill 319 of ensuring that you have resources in place for students that are behind in reading? Are we planning to start next school year earlier or later due to the early closure this year? So we have a lot of questions. There's a lot of events. We're working through this as a working document. We'll continue to work through that. We've made a lot of, there's been a lot of positives as far as working together through these questions, and we'll try to be proactive and communicate throughout that process. So just want to share some questions that we've recognized as a working document, and we'll work to get those answers and to communicate those to our stakeholders appropriately. I did want to touch on, and if Jason Hoffman could bring up here, one thing that we're super excited, as you know, with the passing of J+C, it included Capital City High School, obviously, but it included renovations at Jefferson City High School, and we're super excited about that. We originally had signs at Jefferson City High School, but we also wanted to see, once we got our signs that we had ordered, what that looked like. And we felt that there's a need to spruce up, to have some more excitement at Jefferson City High School. So you see here, Jason's brought up, we have there on the south side in the auxiliary gym, the JC Oval, that we are super excited about that. Our goal was to have that by graduation, which is May 17th. And that's still our goal, to have that up by May 17th. So if you can see that on your screen, give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Okay, that's an oval there. That's on the south side of the auxiliary gym there at Jeff City High School. Jason, if you go to the next slide.
Larry, you also might mention that that is a lit sign. So that is a lighted sign that you'll be able to see from stadium.
Okay, so as you heard Jason said, so that will be lit up. So we're super excited about what that'll look like. This is the east or northeast corner. We're gonna have Jay. So if you come out of the link and you're headed to the west, there to the southwest, we're gonna have Jay's. We want to see how big we could have that. That wasn't too, we thought you couldn't have it too big, but we didn't want it to be hideous looking. We wanted to be very professional, but have the J pride that everyone as a J grad and then the J community is proud of. So we have J's that will be from top to bottom, as you can see there. That is on the, again, on the northeast corner facing Lafayette, and that view is coming there out of the link. So we're excited about that. Here, this is on from the north and the new roundabout to the north. That Jefferson City High School is currently there. It is in white. You cannot see it as well as we would like. The JC Tower is to the right that you cannot see here. But the Jefferson City High School is going to be painted red instead of white. So we thought that would show a little better to the north. And so we're excited about those changes as well. Go to the next one, Jason. Here is our known as the wrestling building, and so we're gonna have some wainscoting on the bottom of this to spruce this up, and then it'll be silver that will match at Jeff City High School there as well, or a gray there on the top portion of that. So we're excited about the brick veneer that will be on that building, so you can see that there on the bottom left, that we're excited about. That will, I think, add some professionalism there at that entrance.
This paint will be the same color as the top of the gym on that side, so it'll look very similar.
So, before you go to the last one here, we wanted something here on when you come over the roundabout from Leslie and Stadium, and you look up to Jeff City High School. As most of you know, at the University of Missouri, they were originated in 1839. Well, we originated in 1838. They have a little rock up there at Froh Field that we're thinking that not only are we 1 year older and originated more history than the University of Missouri, we're super excited about here. So if you got a little drum roll, Jason, you want to bring up the last slide? So as you can see, this is the J+C, and if you look in the upper right, that has the JC there on the hill. That will be used to, we had stairs there, and we think this could be a light per se. This is going to be a concrete color. We think for years to come that we are super excited about, that we think would really exuberate out that J pride that you guys as former Jays know all about, and that JC interwoven there on that hill. So we are super, super fired up about that. Thanks to Carrie and Architects Alliance, the JC Monument sign on that corner that we're super excited about. So those are some drawings that we just want to show you of some changes coming at JC with regards to signs here for the future at Jeff City High School.
One question, Larry. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead, Ken.
So when the roundabout was done and the retaining walls there below the wrestling building, at one time, Carrie with Architects Alliance indicated there'd be some landscaping that would be done there. Is that, I didn't see that on the drawing or anything, but is that still slated to go in on those retaining walls?
Yes, it is. And we just know it's going to be some time until those grow. But yeah, that's going to be there. We think 5 years from now, that's going to look much, much different. But just add some professionalism to that building, as I know Kenya and I talked about with that. So we'll continue with the landscaping, but spruce up the building there with the wainscoting. And that's something that the color will match at Jeff City High School from the red or the maroon that we currently have.
Okay.
And they just took a picture of as it stands today and showed what the colors will look like. But yeah, there are trees that'll go in front in that landscaping, but they're not going to be huge when they first go in. They're going to be kind of small. So just trying to dress that up because it is the front door of the building.
Right. But so there is some landscaping that still hasn't been put in yet.
Correct.
Okay.
Hi, Larry. This is Stephanie. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Stephanie. Go ahead.
Great, thanks. I'm just curious if we were going to be able to put in a digital marquee there anywhere.
Jason, could you help me on that? I don't believe, I know we have a sign that's not digital on the south side from the south entrance of Union, but I don't think it's a digital sign at this time. Is that correct, Jason?
So we have a digital sign on Union, correct. And we talked about putting a digital sign there. And the problem is that hillside is so big that we were afraid that if you put a digital sign the size that we're able to afford, it would look like you were looking at your cell phone up against a wall. Do you understand, Stephanie? It's just such a big wall that it just looked way too small, a little digital sign there.
I did. I was thinking more of like a marquee that has announcements, kind of like the one, it's like some schools have a marquee, but like a digital one. So not really signage, more like a communication tool.
Like in front of the Miller Center.
Yeah.
I don't think we have one there. I don't believe we have one at Capital City. Those are discussions we can have. And if we want to look at possibilities of where that might be located, we can sure have those conversations and considerations.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? That's my report. I want to share those. We're super excited about that at Jefferson City High School. Any questions on anything else on my report? We're going to get into more detail here with our COVID-19 report, but that's all I have at this time. Jason will, unless you have any more questions for me, I'll ask Jason to kind of give an update on our finances with regards to the COVID-19, and then that would lead into our COVID-19 update. So do you have anything else for me under this part of it?
Thank you, Larry. Go ahead, Jason.
Okay, Jason, would you touch on the impact on our school district with our finances with the COVID-19?
Trying just a second, sorry. Okay, so as Larry said, these are certainly strange times, and we wrote a budget last year not expecting to be going to school throughout the rest of the year. So if we're not going to school for the rest of the year, what does that do to the budget? And so we're still trying to figure that out, and we're not ready to make a budget amendment, but just trying to capture all the things that may be changing. And so I've just developed a spreadsheet that, I don't have it quantified yet, but I don't know if you can read this, but we have, our buildings aren't occupied like usual. So we should see energy savings due to we've set back the temperatures and the lights are off. So we should see energy savings. Some of the things we have been able to quantify, we won't have any more substitute teachers for the rest of the year. So budget, there's what we've spent through March. So we should save almost or around $250,000 not having subs the rest of the year. We've scaled back our waste management, so should have savings there. While we're not serving meals, our food program is designed to be a break-even program. And so I have food cost in blue and I have revenues down here in blue. So while we'll save about $500,000 in food cost, about half of our costs are in food. The other half of our costs in the program are in personnel, and we're still paying our staff. So those costs will remain. So we will, if we don't get any more local food sales or any more federal reimbursement, we're going to lose about $1.5 million. But as I'll talk more about the food program that we are doing right now, we should generate close to $300,000. But all that combined, the savings from food costs and the loss of revenue, we will be a negative to the budget of about $700,000. So we know we're not going to spend all of our purchase services. We know all of our supplies. We just haven't been able to quantify that yet. Transportation, here's what we've spent so far. There's in new business, there's an amendment to our agreement with First Student that if we pass that, we would spend another $500,000 with First Student. And they are delivering meals for us, and we'll talk about that in the food program too. But even with the amendment to the agreement, we would save around $800,000. Shouldn't have any more overtime. We have people working, but not really overtime. We don't have events and ball games. Travel and professional development. Diesel fuel will save over $125,000 there. And then just trying to think about all the things that we had planned to do that we won't do. So we think there's at least $1.7 million in savings, and it's probably exceed $2 million. I went through the revenues. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen to interest income so far, but with at zero, we're going to have less interest income than we were expecting. Prop C is the statewide sales tax for education. That there's no sales happening in Missouri. The good thing about Prop C is that it taxes some things that regular sales tax doesn't. Regular sales tax does not tax unprepared food. Prop C does tax unprepared food. So grocery sales are way up, which Prop C does tax that. And the spread through the end of March was about 1.5%. Prop C was up like 5.3% in March, and regular sales tax was up 3.8%. So that spread is already there. So we know we're going to lose revenue. So we're estimating about 1.2 million in revenue loss. It'll be greater than that. I'll drop down a line that the General Assembly met last week and the governor signed the supplemental budget. And within the supplemental budget was a piece to restore funding that was lost from our prior year. So we had a negative correction in our foundation formula. They passed $15.9 million in the supplemental budget that restored that. So that was a $150,000 increase. The big thing that you all heard about is the CARES Act that passed, and there's $35 billion for K-12 education. Missouri is going to get about $210 million of that, and we think Jefferson City's share is about $1,650,000. So we're still waiting on guidance, but we think that there aren't really other expenditures tied to that. We think we can use that to supplement our budget. So we'll have, right now we're looking that the closure is saving us about $2.3 million so far of things that we can quantify for this year. Some other things, we're self-insured, so our their people are not having procedures. And the only things happening in hospitals and doctors' offices are coronavirus related. So everyone's expecting claims to be down unless we have a rash of hospitalizations related to coronavirus. We don't have workers on site, so it's hard to have a workplace injury. So we expect future savings from our EMOD going down. One big thing that we're working about, and we talked a long time this morning, is summer school. Summer school, I have a savings. If we didn't have a summer school, we spend about $1.4 million in summer school, but it generates about $1.9 million of revenue. And so that additional $500,000 helps fund other programs that we do throughout the school year. And if we're unable to find a way to have a summer school, that would be a negative impact. So we don't have all the answers. I'd say we have less answers than we've ever had this time of the year. Everyone's worried about general revenue going forward at the state level, and are they going to be able to fund the foundation formula? What's going to happen to our Prop C revenues, interest income? What's going to happen to personal property taxes? Are people going to protest their taxes? Are people going to, we're going to have not as much reassessment? Tons of questions, and just trying to gather them and have as much information as we can.
Any questions for Jason on any part of that?
Jason, this is Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So help me remember, are we locked into a contractual rate with our diesel purchase, or can we buy ahead?
We have never gotten into the derivative markets, futures markets. We buy diesel fuel truckload at a time, 7,500 gallon tanker truck at a time is how we've done it. That's something we probably need to look into.
I would suggest it based on the news that's still in the futures markets and the activity that OPEC took the other day. You know, to me, it's something to look into. And if it's allowable, I mean, if we've got the cash to be able to do it, you know, it's just going to extend those savings, I think.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Jason, quick question. How much by not hosting the state track meet is that going to hurt our bottom line as well?
So I need to quantify. We generate about $60,000 in revenue out of that, and that helps fund a lot of our sporting programs, but we're also not having a lot of sporting programs in the spring. So I would say it's going to hurt the city as far as the tourism more than it's going to hurt.
Yeah, it's about a $2.5 million loss for the city, but I just didn't know how much it hurt us.
No, it'll hurt, but it'll probably be offset, and more than offset, by not having all the spring sports.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Jason, one question about transportation. I know First Student has been helping provide distribution of meals and so forth, but are we going to have any contractual obligations to them? Because we're obviously not running as many bus routes as we would be.
Right.
But what's our obligation there?
So we have under new business, we have an item to have a contract amendment, and so I'll talk in detail about it at that point. But it is a hot topic around schools that contract transportation around the country. I'll tell you that. So I'll answer that question when we get to that topic, if that's okay, Ken.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yep.
Any more questions for Jason? All right, Larry, who's next?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. If we would there, as we lead into our COVID-19, I want to give a report. At our last board meeting, we gave you an update. We had Chad Suter came and gave us an update, just a little bit as far as on what the virus was. But I wanted our folks to kind of give an update with where we are. We know there's a lot of questions. I touched on earlier that working document as we'll work through that. But we've said from the beginning on Maslow's hierarchy of needs that it starts with the food before learning. And so I wanted Jason just to give us an update with our meals. I'd share that we're close to 1,300. That number continues to climb. Again, kudos to our food service folks. But Jason, would you give a little update just on our food service before we get into the learning aspect from our Learning Suite folks?
Yep. So Larry mentioned it earlier. 60% of our students are on free and reduced lunch, and knowing that we provide breakfast and lunch for those students, and now they're not able to come to school to get those meals. This is something that Larry asked us to do and try and feed as many kids as we could. And what Larry did mention at the beginning is what an amazing job Dana and her staff have done, Frank, and then Brandon with First Student as far as getting on board. We started right away the first 3 days before spring break, right when we closed, and we knew we had a big need. We were serving in 8 locations, 8 of our school buildings, and we only served about 400 meals to 400 students. Every time a student gets a meal, it's a breakfast and a lunch. And so we only served about 400 those first 3 days. Then we came back from spring break, and the other team that's done an amazing job is Ryan and Brittany and Petra and her and the communications to get the word out about where people can get meals. So we were still serving in the 8 locations for the first 3 days after spring break, and we served 700 on the Monday after spring break, and then we've been over 900 every day since then. And we started busing to 8. We had 8 different bus routes around the district that started on the Thursday after spring break. And so we got also the food bank has provided 1,200 buddy packs for us every Friday. So we're distributing 1,200 buddy packs. So on Fridays, the kids get a breakfast, a lunch, and a bag of food for the weekend. And then thanks to Stephanie and Boys and Girls Club, starting today, every child gets a breakfast, lunch, and a dinner. And so on Friday, they'll get a breakfast, lunch, a dinner, and a buddy pack for weekend food. So we served, like Larry said, we served almost 1,300 meals. Today, we've served students, sorry, you can multiply that by 3 today, because that's how many meals we served. So 3,600 meals. But 10,000 students have gotten food since we've been on break. So happy to answer any questions about that.
Any questions for Jason? Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Who's next, Larry?
Yes, Brian Schindorf, if you would touch on the learning element, and Gary or Lori or add to any supporting there, but just kind of touch on what we're doing, some tweaks or changes that we've made since the beginning.
So this is my first time talking. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so you can imagine there are challenges that we had to address with taking a public education and doing that remotely. But I can tell you from the beginning, there were a lot of expectations, but 2 of the primary expectations from Dr. Lifton was that we developed some form of an instructional model that would help support our students through this time, and then also that we would have solid and ongoing communication with our students and with our families. We were fortunate in that we had already had some instructional models in place that we were able to take and adapt to help us with remote learning. And so those models were things like the Google Classroom. A lot of our secondary teachers, if not most of our secondary teachers, had been using Google Classroom. A lot of our elementary teachers had been, and that was a platform that we could use. We were already using iReady for ELA and for math, and thankfully iReady stepped up and said that they were willing to provide us licenses for all of our students, 100% of our kids free of charge, where we had been paying for that service for only a limited number up until then. We started using things like Scholastic Learning at Home, the Scholastic Classroom. And then we put in place some expectations for phone calls home, keeping up with students, checking in what their needs were. And then some of our teachers started using things like Google Meet, which is very similar to Zoom, in order for them to touch base with and communicate with our students. And so we were fortunate that some of those things were already in play and our staff knew them. And so we've been using those 5 things have really been our primary models that we've been using over the past few weeks. One of the things that we changed as we were listening to our teachers and getting a little frustrated with trying to keep up and curious about what the consistency looked like with our instruction across the district. A couple weeks ago, we developed what we're calling the learning templates, and we provided those to all teachers. And those templates, what they did was they're a communication tool for our parents so they know what the expectations are for kids, and they're a support structure for our teachers so they can use those templates. And what the template does is it provides moms and dads with, here's what you can expect your son or daughter to be doing each day in terms of what literacy looks like, in terms of what math looks like, the expectations that we would have for all kids, and they're all done by grade level. So we have those learning templates by grade level, and then our classroom teachers take the pieces that are individualized for their classroom to continue instruction, and they add those to those templates, and they're on every teacher's website so they can access those. So that was a piece that we modified and changed as we moved along. In general, what you'd find is that a lot of our teachers are coming in and they are using Monday and Tuesday to design instruction. We're still putting together paper and pencil packets that go home to students. They're also designing the online lessons that they're sharing with students. So they're doing that typically on Monday and Tuesday. And then for the rest of the week, what you typically see teachers doing is engaging with kids through Google Classroom, through Google Meet, making phone calls home to students, checking in on how the packets are going, and using those days just to check in and support the students for the rest of the week. And so that's really what the week looks like instructionally. I can tell you that what we do is we are continuing to get feedback. Ryan's office continues to get feedback from parents about how things are going academically. Lori and Gary continue to have their business meetings with principals every week. They're meeting with principals. They're checking in to see how are things going, what concerns do teachers have, what are things that we can change. And that's how some of the changes that we made actually came from teachers talking to principals and principals sharing with Gary and Lori and then bringing it to our meetings. So we continuously modify our program to help support the teachers and the students based on what we get and what the feedback that we're getting. A few of those changes, just so you know, Brenda had sent out to check in, since we had sent devices, one-to-one devices home with every student except for K-1. We needed to find out how many of our students actually had Wi-Fi at home and could access the programs that teachers were asking them to do. And so Brenda had collected some information for us, and through that, we now have been able to identify which students don't have Wi-Fi at home. Joe's team has been working through a program called MiFi, where they can provide a hotspot for a home, which is really looks like a phone. Take the phone home, it provides a hotspot, and you then can access the internet. And so Joe's team has been working vigorously over the past week to get those devices put together and identified each home that needs them, and they're going out in the next couple of days. Those devices will be going home, and we'll continue to collect information from our parents as to if you need the device or if you decide you don't need the device, it needs to come back. Our goal is let's get Wi-Fi in every home so that we can continue to provide online instruction for every family. And so that process is in place. We also are working really hard with any student who prior to leaving a few weeks ago was struggling and or failing. So we've asked our staff to make extra effort to reach out to them specifically, to be intentional about the conversations, to provide them additional support that they might need, because our goal would be, let's use this time to help those students stay consistent with the work they need to do, but also let's see if we can't move them forward and bring their grades up and help support them. We have a model in place that allows our students, especially secondary, to improve the grade that they left with a few weeks ago. And so we're encouraging kids to continue to work towards improving their grades. And then another piece we're just talking about now is getting teachers to begin, when they use Google Classroom, to begin recording those lessons, because then our students can access those lessons if they're not available at that time that the teacher does them. They can be recorded, and kids can come in later, watch those lessons, and still receive the support that they need. So that's kind of been the progress that we've had. We see this as just a continual improvement process. We continue to collect feedback from moms, dads, teachers, and principals, and we will continue to adapt and modify whatever we need to do to provide the best instruction that we can.
Any questions for Dr. Schindorf? Okay, thank you, Dr. Schindorf. All right, who's up next?
Thank you, Brian. Anything secondary or elementary, Gary or Lori, that you wanted to touch on or highlight? I know Brian gave an overview, but anything that you felt is pertinent that you want to share?
I just think we have to recognize all of our teachers for the work that they're doing and contacting the families and really working with our kids. The main thing, especially at the elementary, is those relationships and keeping those connections going. And they're just willing to do whatever. They're willing to try whatever. Talking about Google Classroom, Brian had brought that up more so at the secondary level, but now we've got elementary teachers that are really giving that a try. The main thing is just making sure those kids still feel connected to us and for when they come back, they've got somebody to rely on. So I'm really proud of what the teachers are willing to do and what they are doing, and they are rolling with it. And that's what we all are doing in this unknown time. And just really proud of my folks and my principals and teachers right now.
I have not spoke yet, so mic check.
Yep.
Can everyone hear me? Okay.
You're on.
I will try not to repeat anything that Brian or Lori said, but I ditto on what Lori said about not only our teachers, but our principals and how they're coordinating at the building level, how to carry out everything that needs to be carried out. When this first started, we didn't know if it was going to be 2 weeks or what we were getting into. And so since then, we've been having a lot of conversations. I meet with my secondary principals every Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m. And, we're trying to find that sweet spot for each grade level, because you have everything from a 6th grade encore class all the way to a senior level advanced placement class. And so how do you balance everything related to learning moving forward, whether it's how much work should we expect kids to do, and how are we going to grade? Are we going to not count grades or count grades, or take a hold harmless approach? So those first couple of weeks not knowing actually gave us an opportunity to get a lot of feedback and to collaborate on where we are today. Each of the secondary buildings emailed out a plan to their building students and families on Friday to provide more detailed direction on how we're moving forward. So, as we all know, is there a perfect plan? No, I don't think there's a perfect plan. But I think we found a pretty good spot based on what everybody was on the input we received from teachers and students that eventually made its way to the principals and brought into our business meeting. So we feel like we're in a pretty good spot moving forward, and we'll continue to listen to folks' feedback as we continue our closure.
Gary, could I ask you a question? Can you hear me?
I can.
Just one question about, can you give us any idea of, has there been an expectation communicated to staff at the middle school, high school level about how frequently they should be initiating and reaching out, contacting? I mean, I know at the elementary level, there's probably a little bit more from staff to students. At the high school, middle school, you would expect maybe the students would be able to initiate a little more initiative on their own. But I just heard some differences in terms of, which teachers are actually initiating contact via video or phone calls. And I wondered if there was any level of expectation that had kind of been set for them.
Right. We started out, Ken, with a very clear expectation on which teachers were going to contact each student initially to get some of the information that we got on our surveys. As far as moving forward, we have set aside 2 days a week for every teacher to have group instruction with their students. And then, so like the odd period classes will go on Monday and Wednesday for group instruction and mass communication, and then even period classes on on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then Fridays is a collaboration and catch-up day. And we're hoping Fridays can be geared towards that extra time needed for staff to focus on students that are having a tough time connecting with and contacting, or those students who need the extra support to at least bring their grades up to passing. So moving forward, they will have whole group instruction at least twice a week. And then any student who is not in attendance via Google Meet, or they're not hearing from through email, Fridays will be a time for them to, for those who they're struggling to connect with and or make any contact with.
And we're also, just so you know, we're actually maintaining logs too. So our teachers, when they're speaking to kids, they're logging that information. And we work with the principals then to monitor those logs to see which kids are falling through the, we're not getting in contact with, and we need to reach out to them. So we are logging that and monitoring it too.
Hey,
Okay.
can you guys hear me
Thank
okay?
you.
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you, Lindsay.
Okay, I just wanted to say, I've got an elementary kiddo, a middle school kid, and a high school kid, and it was, paranoid and petrified when I heard that we were going to be home for the rest of the year. And Lori and Gary, your teams, I just cannot echo what a good job and how quickly, things came home. I mean, Nora's the little one, and her Chromebook had all the logins for all the different sites on it and her usernames, and the packets came in the mail quickly. And teachers have reached out I've gotten calls from high school, from the middle school, from the elementary school asking to talk to the kids. We've gotten handwritten letters from teachers in the mail. We've had parades come by, videos sent. I mean, it's awesome to see, and I know how hard they're working. So I just can't say thank you enough. I'm still paranoid and petrified that we're not going back to school, but they've just done a phenomenal job from elementary level all the way to high school. I've been super, super impressed and proud of everybody. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Lindsay. I'll share that with the secondary team.
Same.
Great. Thank you very much for those reports, and thank you for everybody for all the hard work you're putting in. Really, really appreciate it. Okay, who's next?
Joe Martin, would you give us an update on technology? Joe is, I'm not saying 24/7, but he might feel like it at times, but getting devices in our kids' hands to facilitate learning virtually. So Joe, if you'd give us an update on that, please.
Sure. Not unlike the start of this evening's meeting, we've had some bumps in the roads, but we're getting there. Just to give you guys a rough idea of what's happened since the last board meeting, we've gotten devices, as Dr. Schindorf said, in all students' hands, 2 through 12 at home. I reported at the last meeting that we were working to install exterior Wi-Fi devices on every one of our buildings, and we did that. We had those installed prior to the end of school, but we knew that wasn't a long-term solution, or that wasn't going to be the best solution for our kiddos. So the teachers started reaching out and trying to figure out who had access to internet at home, who did not. Based upon that input from the teachers, we worked with a vendor and got MiFi devices in. We ordered about 700 MiFi devices, got those in, started getting those in early last week, got the last ones configured today, got them all delivered to the schools today, and the schools will start getting those in the hands of the kids that need them tomorrow. Just a huge undertaking. Obviously, this is the first time that we've had to offer support for both kids and staff remotely working at home. That obviously has some obstacles when you're trying to troubleshoot technology in an environment that you don't have control over. But so far, it's gone really well. We have support all day, like normal business hours, 7:30 to 4. If a Chromebook, something's broke on the Chromebook, or it requires us actually physically touching the machine, we set up 2 to 3 days during the week where they can bring those by the technology center. We have folks there to work on them, get the device back in their hands, whether it be staff or student. And it's gone really well for us. I mean, like I said, there's been some bumps in the roads, but overall, I can't say that staff or students have had much downtime considering the environment we're working in. We're still refining the process. I'm blessed with a great group of people in the technology department. They make me look good more than I deserve. So we're getting through it, and I'm really happy with where we're at right now.
Any questions for Joe?
No, Lorelei, if I could, I wanted to give just a quick kudos to Joe and his team. Some of you saw on social media, and I had nothing to do with it other than taking a phone call, but St. Mary's Hospital had a situation where they had some patients who couldn't visit with family because they didn't have iPhone capability to do FaceTime or whatever. So I called Joe. He came up with some iPads, which we've loaned to SSM, and they're setting those up so that they can do video visits with family members and patients, and just a great community service that Joe was able to pull together and help out very short notice. And so I just want to thank him publicly and let y'all know that he and his team were great in that request.
Great. Thank you both for facilitating that. All right, any other questions for Joe? All right, who's next?
Frank, would you give us an update on facilities, please?
Oh, we can't hear you. Nope, we can't hear you, Frank. Somebody want to call Frank on the cell phone and he can talk and we can hold it up so he can hear it?
Let's go on to Ryan. Would you give an update? And then Frank, we'll try to come back to you. I don't know if you could possibly call in, but Ryan Burns, would you give us an update on communications, please?
Yes. Like Joe said, last time we were in front of you at the board meeting a month ago, it literally feels like a year has gone by since then. And so many of the things that we were planning at that time, like having our staff log their travel for spring break, just have kind of the control over those situations have gone out of our hands. And I think we've had 4 extensions at this point of our closure that we initially expected and hoped would only be a week or 2. So we've done our best to communicate with our staff and our families in a timely manner every time that happened. Most recently last week with the governor's order of closing for the rest of the school year. And I think that the tone that we are hearing back from our families and our staff is that we all recognize that this is a situation that no one is happy to be in, but it's out of our control in so many ways. And I think that we're doing a good job reassuring our families and our staff that about the things that we can control and trying to make life better for them in this difficult situation. We have tried to be cognizant of the amount of communication that we're sending to some degree because, like Lindsay talked about earlier, so many of our parents now are hearing from multiple teachers, if not in multiple schools, so much more frequently than what that they might have been used to before. So we're just trying to strike a good balance between getting information out in a timely manner without also overwhelming people with changes or messaging and new information. We have posted a lot of resources on our district website, www.jcschools.us, with COVID-19 resources for technology and learning. We're seeing thousands of hits to that site. So I think that that has been successful. And hopefully we can just continue to support as needed as we go along. But I do think that in general, the feedback that we've received has been positive and that we're all in this together and we'll get through this together as we move forward.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Communications, they've done a tremendous job, been very proactive. She's monitored parent feedback, social media, and just done a tremendous job. So Ryan, thank you. Do we know if Frank is able to access or able to call in at this time? Frank, are you possibly there?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
We can. Go ahead, Frank.
All right, so what we've done at the building level, our custodians, maintenance people, still working, still cleaning, still doing maintenance duties throughout the district and things that they're supposed to be doing at this point. We do have from Hilliard, a chemical biological engineer, as soon as they're available and free to be able to move about and meet with our people, go building to building, and help train some of our custodians on chemical use and make sure that we're properly using them, and then the cleaning techniques from Hilliard as well as to everybody. Looking more when we come back, what does that look like for our cleaning the buildings and how we're going to work through that process and make sure that the buildings are clean for anything at this point. One, I'd just like to say thank you to them guys, the custodians, the maintenance, the food service workers. You know, they're still working. They're still out there. They're still seeing people, still working, you know, shoulder to shoulder with each other and doing the best that they can to stay healthy. And they're doing a great job and just no complaints. They just keep getting with it. A couple weeks ago, right there at the end of the week, 2 weeks ago, FEMA had opened up funding. And so I've had 3 calls with a few of the people that part of because we just applied for the application grant for FEMA for our tornado, still working through that. So I got to be part of a task force to be able to start they opened up the funding, but they had none of the language ready to go yet. And so this is some of the things that they're doing is building that application. What does that look like? And a lot of it is going to be for expenses that are above and beyond what school district would normally have. Mailing of these packets, our MiFi devices purchased and things like that, that we will be able to go through FEMA and hopefully recoup some of those funds back. On the facility side of it, we're still moving forward with pre-bids, bid openings. However, we are doing them totally different. They're all just like this on Zoom meetings, video meetings. We have a plan room where contractors can go get documents and review them prior to a pre-bid and ask questions through that pre-bid meeting. And our bid openings also have been online, and then we are streaming them through JCTV as well as so that they are actual public meetings that we're putting in our advertising and letting people know, you know, here's the link to go to if you want to sit in and watch the bid openings. We were going to through pre-bid and even bid openings lose some of our contractors just because of their policies that they have in not being able to be in groups or come visit sites and what have you. So we scrambled real quick because we had a lot of openings and a lot of work to do. And so happily to say every one of them are participating that had brought that concern to us. And so we had a really good turnout for the ones that you guys are gonna that you're looking at tonight and hopefully approve. But yeah, it's been a challenge, but it's been working out. But just thank you to everybody for the team effort. I mean, I think under these circumstances, we're doing a very good job, I feel anyways. And that's all I have.
Frank, thank you for that update facility wise, and great job to you guys and your folks. Last, Brenda, would you just touch on your survey for our parents as you've worked through that, and thank you for being proactive with that. Would you just kind of give a quick overview of that, please?
Sure. On April 3rd, we sent a survey to seniors and senior parents asking them about baccalaureate, graduation, and prom. We did have a minor glitch with some of the students, so we resent that survey out to them last Friday. Graduation is obviously the one that's on most people's mind. The seniors would like us to hold graduation in May. 43% of them marked that as their first choice, hoping that the weather would hoping that our situation would change. However, 35% of them marked their first choice as keep graduation, even if we had to hold it in July. Parents marked July as their first choice, with 40% of them reporting and 33% marking May as their first choice. When you look at the second choices for all groups, they all ranked June as their second choice, 65% for parents and 61% for seniors. One of the questions that we asked on graduation was, how much notice do you need in order to be able to schedule it for your own family? And we gave them a continuum between 1 week and 6 weeks notice that they would like from us. Both groups consistently tell us 2 to 3 weeks is plenty of notice. Don't rush. It's okay. We all understand. And so we were very pleased with that information. Prom is similar results. Seniors would love to have it in May, but if not, July is absolutely fine with them. Parents are the same, both July, as May as being first choice, with July following right behind that. And then of course, their second choice as a group was June as well. Interestingly enough, baccalaureate, seniors' first choice is to have it in May. with 34% of them reporting, but 30% of seniors said just cancel it. We don't need to have baccalaureate. Parents, 28% said May, and then followed very closely by 27% with July. And what's interesting is the combined results for both groups. May is 31%, cancel is 24%. So if we were looking at anything that we would not reschedule based on this feedback, we would ask, we would probably not recommend baccalaureate at this point. I do want to caution you though, this is with 535 entries into the system. If you had a parent, like at the Hatfield house, Georgia Hatfield could fill it out as well as both of Georgia's parents. So at this point, we have 214 seniors who have reported into this survey and 317 parents. Any questions for me on the survey?
Any questions for Brenda? All right, thank you.
Yep. Oh, I have one quick question, Brenda.
Sorry.
How long is that survey open? How long do senior parents or kids have to respond?
So the Jeff High School is sending it out for me. I've asked them to send one more reminder, and I don't want to close it until we have at least half of the seniors would be my choice.
Got it. Okay. So maybe we all
that's
need
just
to
my
reach
personal-
out, you know,
Yeah.
on social media or something and encourage folks to go fill those out. I'm thrilled to hear about graduation and prom that we're planning on doing it. So thank you for your work.
No problem.
All right. Does that conclude all of our COVID reports, Larry?
I believe it does. And thank you again for everyone's patience with that. And thank you for all of our folks that are truly working diligently as we work to provide food and education as best we can during these times. And the greater picture is, I think it's going to change how we educate kids in the future when we get back to, let's say, normal, whatever normal is, the opportunities that we have through virtual learning that we can work to better connect with kids and other options that we have. I think it's going to be the silver lining as we work through this. So thanks to everyone that made it happen, and thanks for everybody's report.
Great. Okay, we're going to recess now and adjourn sign die, and we're going to come back and reorganize the Board of Education. So let's take a 5-minute break. We're going to say goodbye to Steve, and then we're going to come back and we're going to swear in the new members and vote in the new officers. Thank you, everybody.
anybody hear me? Again, I'm not lit up though. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yes.
I can hear you, but it still says that your bandwidth is low.
A little.
Okay, so is everybody ready to start this portion of the meeting?
A little. You're breaking up, Lorelei.
I'm gonna pass it over to Stephanie to do the oath.
Go ahead, we have Brad Bates, Lori Massman, and Scott Hovis. Each of them should have their oaths. They could, at a time, please read them. Lori Massman, would you go first?
Oh, gosh.
And I'm not. I do solemnly affirm upon my honor that I will support the constitutions of the United States and of the state of Missouri, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director in and for the school district of the city of Jefferson, counties of Cole and Callaway, state of Missouri, to the best of my ability, according to law. So help me God.
Okay, Scott Hovis. Thank you, Lori. Oath.
Nope. Can you go with Brad? I'm trying to find mine.
And the board docs, there's an attachment. Brad, if you'd like to go ahead.
I do solemnly affirm upon my honor that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Missouri, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the school director in and for the school district of the city of Jefferson, counties of Cole and Callaway, state of Missouri, to the best of my abilities, according to law. So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, you're up, Scott.
So help me God.
You need to read the oath, please.
Okay, hold on. I'm having trouble finding it attached to my thing.
I just sent it to you.
No, you're a freaking great. You're a good man. A text or email?
Text.
Oh, sorry, folks.
I just texted it to you.
I got it. I do swallow. I got it. I do solemnly affirm upon my honor that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Missouri, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director in and/or the school district of the city of Jefferson, counties of Cole and Callaway, state of Missouri, to the best of my ability, according to law. So help me God.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, I would like to welcome Brad Bates to the Board of Education, and incumbents Scott Hovis and Lori Massman to the board. Look forward to serving kids going forward. I believe at this time I am the temporary chairman, so I'd like to start out seeking nominations for board president.
Larry, this is Stephanie. I'd like to make a nomination.
Okay.
I would like to just go ahead and nominate Lori Massman as president. If it's okay, I'd like to go ahead and also nominate Scott Hovis for vice president and Ken Enlow as treasurer.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Okay, so we have a nomination for Lori Massman as president, Scott Hovis as vice president, and Ken Enlow for treasurer. If there's no other nominations, we do, I believe, go through each one of these. Roll call vote. Okay. We'll have roll call vote on as we only have those two nominations, one on each one. We can do the three together, I believe. Is that correct? I believe we can. Okay, so we'll do roll call vote as as Lori Massman as president, Scott Hovis as vice president, and Ken Enlow as treasurer. If no other nominations, any discussion? Okay, so roll call vote on those three as named.
Lorelei Schwartz. Lori Massman.
Yes.
Scott Hovis.
Yes.
Lindsay Rowden.
Yes.
Ken Enlow.
Yes.
Stephanie Johnson.
Yes.
And Brad Bates.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to congratulate our new board president.
Need to ask for nominations for secretary.
So we have our president, we have our vice, and we have our treasurer. We do need for secretary, and I believe our newly elected president, Lori Massman, will call for any nominations for our secretary.
Larry, I would like to make a nomination to nominate Stephanie Sappenfield as our board secretary.
Second.
Are there any other nominations?
Lori's audio is really bad.
Yeah, we can't. Lori, your audio is not coming through at all.
Sounds real bad.
Okay, as she's doing that, are there any other nominations?
Okay, we're gonna.
Any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll do roll call vote for Stephanie Sappenfield as our secretary.
Lorelei Schwartz. Lori Massman. Scott Hovis.
Yes.
Lindsay Rowden.
Yes.
Ken Enlow.
Yes.
Stephanie Johnson.
Yes.
Brad Bates.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you to our president, vice president.
If Lori and Lorelei are coming back upstairs, will you put Lori's computer on mute just so it doesn't create that feedback in the boardroom down there?
I'm out of breath. Right now, over my unmuting. You're not muted. Sorry, we're getting resituated.
Now we need to elect board members to one delegate position and one alternate position to the Missouri School Boards Association.
Nominate Ken Enlow.
Ken, do you accept the nomination?
I will.
Okay. And how about an alternate position?
I nominate Brad Bates.
Brad, do you accept the position?
You're on mute, Brad.
Brad, we can't hear you.
It's probably a good thing I was. I accept.
All right.
Any other nominations?
Any other nominations? Roll call vote?
Okay, Lorelei Schwartz,
Yes.
Lori Massman,
Yes.
Scott Hovis,
Yes.
Lindsay Rowden,
Yes.
Ken Enlow,
Yes.
Stephanie Johnson,
Yes.
Brad Bates.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I am now going to call to order the new board. Roll call, please.
Lori Massman,
Yes.
Scott Hovis,
Yes.
Ken Enlow,
Yes.
Lorelei Schwartz,
Here.
Lindsay Rowden,
Here.
Stephanie Johnson,
Here.
and Brad Bates.
Yes. Here.
Okay, we have several consent agenda items. The first one asks if we have anything that needs to be pulled out and voted on separately.
Yes, this is Stephanie. I'd like to pull out the baseball field renovations and discuss that separately.
Anything else? Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items except for B, which is the baseball field improvements.
So moved.
So moved. I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
All right, let's discuss the baseball.
Well, I was just wondering before we discuss it, if Frank could give a presentation on it.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Thank you. I can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, good, good. Okay, so the baseball field improvements in the maintenance shed, what this is entailing is that I'll just start with the easy one. The maintenance shed is a facility to store gas powered equipment, whether that be our gator, our snow blowers, anything that's gas, because we cannot, under fire code, store those items inside of the building, and we have no other structure there to put these items in. So maintenance shed is a 20 by 40 slab that is in this contract with power, with a few plug-ins to be able to plug in battery chargers for those things and lights if we happen to be in that after dark. Baseball field improvements would include, let's see, there's within that is ADA parking, a sidewalk to get to the field, concrete around both sides of the visitor side as well as the home side, 2 bullpens and a batting cage. And the concrete essentially around the field and the sidewalk to get up to the field is one, because the baseball field is just set on right there, built right there in the middle of a pile of dirt, if you will. And so it went out there and right before we went on our hiatus here, went out there, and a big part of getting the lights onto the field and what have you is getting to the power box, which is outside of the fenced area. And anything outside of the fenced area after it rains was just mud. And so our kiddos, when they're practicing and what have you, if they're not standing inside of the fence, they're going to be standing in mud or dirt at that point. And so part of that process was just if we're going to do it while we're doing the bullpens and batting cages, we'd gotten a price from Nabholz last year, probably at the end of summer before school started, asked them to price that out for us because it was not on the original plans. So part of that was when they priced it out, wasn't real happy with the price that they were getting from the contractors on site. And so we thought we could come in at a better price. And so we went out to bid. So a lot of the drawings, the work and whatever was already done. So Architect Alliance in combination with Central Missouri Professional Services put together the plans, went out to bid, did come in significantly under what Nabholz had originally quoted us to do the work. Part of that also includes a fence on top of the bluff. I don't know if you've been out there behind home plate. There's where they cut into the hill. There's a pretty good sized bluff back there, and we want to put a fence up there just in case somebody goes up there, they don't end up walking off the end of that bluff. And then putting gates into the parking lot area of the baseball field, and also the drive access to the tennis courts is to put a gate up there. And so at night that we're able to lock that gate and keep people from driving in there. But outside of that, this is something that we looked at a long time ago back in the summer, just knowing that there wasn't any good access to the field. And then while we're doing it and pouring the concrete, and it's just cheaper to have all that done at one time. There'll be concrete poured where bleachers could sit. We don't have any plans of putting bleachers there right now, but there will be a pad on both sides for small sets of bleachers to be able to accommodate that later on down the road.
If I could interject, with the original passing of J+C, it was for practice facilities at Capital City. When you have two high school baseball teams, Jeff City High School, Capital City High School, both at Vivian. Vivian is honestly overloaded. We do have plans for the future of being able to host varsity competitions at Capital City, as well as Jefferson City High School, as we've talked about future plans between Atkins Stadium and Cap Region as well there. But in the meantime, JC will continue at Vivian. So just the overload there will primarily be freshman and junior varsity at these Capital City facilities. These plans are in line with a future phase 2 final competition facilities at Capital City High School. But this will allow them freshmen, JV, possibly a few varsity there here and there, but it's not the final competition ready facilities at Capital City, but they are aligned with to where it could build upon that down the road.
Larry, if you don't mind, I'll just add to it that the batting cage, those conversations fall in line with it just being a practice facility. There's a significant amount of station work that gets done, hitting off tees, soft toss into the net, pitching machine inside the cage, live pitching inside. So I know you mentioned preparing for competition ready, but just to host being able to conduct an efficient practice and get reps in for your kids, significant need for the cage for a lot of station work and developmental for fundamental skills.
Yeah, I don't think that the field is quite ready for competition. There's no scoreboard. There's no flagpole for a flag. There's some various things that still need to be done to be able to get that competition ready, for sure.
I have a question. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a baseball player, so I get the questions all the time. What does our timeline look like for phase 2? Especially because for this spring, we did have both JV and varsity games, not many, but we did have games scheduled for there, and it is not game ready. So what is that? Do we have a timeline for phase 2?
I'll answer that. We do not. That is money that we, as far as the campaign to raise that money, as we've shared our, as we look at down the road that financially, as far as funds with to address K-8 overcrowding and to have practice facilities at Capital City. We know Capital City folks, parents, as you alluded to, no, they want it right now, and we get that. So that is down the road, but there's not a specific exact date that at this date or this fall that we'll have that, and those are discussions that we're having going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Larry, and thanks, Greg. So Lindsay, just to kind of give a different perspective, on the Jeff City side, I understand being a baseball mom that you really want that field competition ready. There was an athletic committee that was put together to really evaluate what are the athletic field needs, and if we had extra money, which I know we don't, how would those funds be used? And so that committee, I sat on that committee, and the committee tasked Aaron Earlywine and the athletic directors at both high schools to go to the drawing board and really think about what is the priority ranking of fields that we need. And they came back to that committee and said, project number one, that was the biggest priority, top priority, was a baseball / softball field on the campus of Jeff City High School. The second priority was to get the football stadium at Capital City competition ready. And then the third priority was the baseball field at Capital City. And so I know that we've been in a place where we've been buying houses post-tornado with the long-range goal of getting that space ready to put a baseball and softball field in with JC. But I really want us to caution as we continue to do upgrades at Capital City. We're not doing the same at JC. And I know that we can't because we haven't demolished all the homes. Whether that's tennis courts across stadium or something, I just want us to really be careful because we're creating have and have nots, and we promised that we wouldn't do that. So that's why I wanted to talk about this baseball field, because making these upgrades to get that competition ready was not what Aaron and his team brought to that committee.
Just to play devil's advocate, I 100% agree where you're at. At this point, Capital City doesn't have any competition fields. We're not competition ready for any sport. So we are going to other places to play whatever sport it is. And that's okay when folks share nicely. But what we've been hearing from some of the boosters and some of the coaches is that some of our partners aren't being very good partners. And I don't think it's necessary for me to call anybody out. But we need to just make sure that we've got places for everybody to play. And just I've had the most recent experience at baseball, which is why I bring it up, that I'm on crutches right now. So the ADA compliance was a big thing. There's no dugouts, so it's not safe, like even for a scrimmage, because there's no dugouts there. As Frank mentioned, there were kids playing up on that giant hill. So the fence is needed. So I totally understand, Lori, what you're saying. And we do need to be really careful, but I think we need to pick and choose where we're balancing. And I get that it may seem like the focus may be on Capital City getting more or whatever, but in the end, we're all going to be the same. And Capital City doesn't have any competition fields right now.
Yeah, I just have one question, and maybe Gary, you can address this. So if I hear Frank correctly, what you're getting is just getting Capital City to a comparable practice facility. And is that going to be used for softball and baseball, both girls softball and boys baseball? Is that accurate?
Right, Ken, that was my sole reason for contributing to the conversation. Is the batting cage doesn't contribute to a competition or to a game. It contributes to the pitching mounds could, if you want to have somebody go warm up, but the batting cage is the big thing to contribute to that facility for practice day in and day out.
So where does currently the JC baseball team, where do they practice? Do they practice at Vivian?
Yes.
Okay. So are we saying that is it an accurate statement to say that the Capital City practice facility is going to be equivalent and no better or no worse than the practice facility that JC uses at Vivian? Is that true?
That's kind of a dangerous question to answer, Ken. Over at Vivian, they have both some indoor and outdoor facility. I think as far as straight facility, as far as practice wise, the batting cage will go a long way in making Cap City an adequate practice facility.
Okay. And Capital City is still going to play, currently, they would still play their competition games at Vivian?
Yes, but I think they're very anxious to try out some sub-varsity games, like try a freshman game at Capital City. We've got a mobile scoreboard. We could put a bench down for dugouts. And so it wouldn't be everything, but just like we're planning to do with some middle school football or freshman football games and soccer games, start to experiment with competitions at the sub-varsity level, just to see how it goes, give it a trial run with what we currently have.
And would it also be fair to say that the equipment that you're talking about storing in this shed, is it going to service like the tennis complex as well? Will there be equipment stored in there that'll be used in other places other than just the baseball field?
If you're talking about the storage shed that we're building, it's mainly for the items that we'll be using on the fields, I guess, grooming equipment, tractors, gators, snow blowers, and gas-powered equipment. But if there's room in there, sure, yes. Right now we have 6 Connexes out there that we store band equipment, football equipment, track. Tennis has storage down at the tennis courts. That pavilion was built with storage. And then we have a Connex down at the baseball field currently as well as Scotty potties. That's what they use for restrooms right now down there, as well as the football field and soccer fields. So,
well, I just think to Lindsay's question, I think we have to be able to say, if we're going to spend, I mean, this is a pretty significant amount of money. I just think we have to be able to say that we're making those comparable practice facilities, and we're not making one, we're not stepping outside the recommendations of the committee and making this a competition field today.
I would say no, that we're not. What we're doing is bringing the facility to a practice grade facility. Currently, it was a very nice field. It's all athletic, all turf infield and sod outfield. But once you get outside of the fences, you're in mud and dirt, and there's nowhere for kids to practice pitching, to practice hitting, other than on the field. And so there really was no other option other than what they could do on the field. And that's why we brought this on earlier, because it wasn't in the plans. And so we brought it in last summer to get pricing for this, to bring that facility just to a good practice facility. And so I think this will go a long ways getting that concrete around the outside, so at least the kids have a clean environment and a safe environment behind the fences to be able to stand there and watch, or at least go do some batting practice or pitching practice within the bullpens.
But
we did put
Lindsay
in
was,
lights.
sorry.
I was just going to say, we did put in lights, and I did hear that there's going to be a mobile scoreboard, and we do intend to use it for competition. Is that not true?
The district already owns mobile scoreboards that we can use for just about anything needed throughout the district.
So I think the plan, the way I understood it from the ADs, if we are going to have everybody playing at Vivian, there's never going to be a time for the Jays to practice at Vivian. So being able to have sub-varsity games at Capital City, because there aren't dugouts, we do have portable scoreboards that we have at the middle schools that we could move, but there aren't bleachers, there's not bathrooms, there's not concession. So I mean, it's not going to be a big crowd that we're going to be able to host there. But we will be able to take some pressure off Vivian, which in my opinion, helps the Jays tremendously.
Hey, Jason and Frank.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I understand, and I agree with what you're saying on the baseball aspect. Just a comment going forward from this point, and Lorelai can probably chime in, as her boys have been through the baseball program. 3 or 4 years ago, the boys baseball team spent, I think, right around $22,000 for the black netting behind the fence, the pad, a speaker system to introduce the players to. And the thought process at that time, and it's still prevalent today, is, well, why would we invest in something we don't own? And I know last year with the Lady Jays softball, we got lucky to be able to play at a nice field that we don't own. And one of the things we did not have was just a simple place to store equipment, just basically one of those storage containers. And we were turned down for that as well because we don't own that facility. So I guess the point I'm making to us is, at some point we've got to acknowledge the fact that we have activities on somebody else's property, and to say, well, we're not going to add anything to it is the equivalent of saying we're going to give it all to one area, not another, and it's going to create a disparity. And I know that the baseball team, the parents had to raise that $20,000 for that expenditure for the boys, which was needed. And I understand that concept of if you don't own it. But on the other hand, if we are putting our varsity teams there, there is a responsibility to at least to provide something, whether we own it or not.
And I think that's the reason why, if I could just interject, we had plans for competition facilities on our own property at Jeff City High School, so the Jays would have the same opportunities as they'll have at Capital City High School. Then the tornado happened after that, and as we see, it's an opportunity there. But we understand that's down the road a little bit. It's great to say we're stronger together until somebody else gets something that we don't have, and we're going to have to work through that and communicate, be consistent. But try to provide the same opportunities, and we're going to do the best we can with that. And I appreciate that input, Brad.
I move to approve the baseball field / softball seat field.
Second.
I'll second. Oh, perfect. Sorry, I was muted.
Any further discussion?
I just want to say on record that I'm going to vote yes for this because I want our Capital City baseball team to have something to practice on that is safe. But I really am going to ask that we not make any more athletic field decisions without having discussions in advance, because perception is really powerful. And we just have to be very, very careful because we made a promise to this community.
Good point, Stephanie. Duly noted.
Good statement.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Going to move on to new business. The SBA graduation policy.
Yeah, I have here included in your packet. It's MSBA's recommendation with regards to the COVID-19, despite the school closures as it references. We're working hard to keep our students on track to graduate. They give 6 recommendations that you've had a copy of. The no requirement of end of course exams. The proficiency credit is authorized, earning credit by other means. Graduation requirements for special education students are determined by his or her IEP team. Transfer students may have some requirements waived, and just getting board approval. So as you've had a copy of, our administration's recommendation is to take MSBA's recommendations with regards to the amendment to MSBA's or to our graduation policy as we are through MSBA and our board policies.
I would move to approve this recommendation.
I second.
Stephanie Johnson, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you guys.
Motion passes. Mr. Hoffman, the first student contract.
Thank you. You just got this added in your packet 30 minutes before the meeting. We've been negotiating this with First Student since we closed. Our contract with First Student is based on 174 school days of delivery of students. And within the contract, it says that if we materially change that we have to negotiate in good faith to adjust rates. And the reason for that is their rates are based on covering their payroll, but also covering the cost of the buses, covering the cost of their facility, the upkeep of the buses, and then also included in that is corporate overhead and profit. Right after we closed, we got a letter from First Student asking for basically paying 100% of our normal route rates, even though we weren't running them. And so that wasn't something that we were interested in at all. So we've been negotiating since then. As we were negotiating, it was important that until we had enough information, we wanted to make sure that the drivers had security and would be able to be paid. And so if you look at the agreement under compensation, for the first 10 days, it says we're going to pay 65% of our regular route costs. And through a lot of discussion and negotiating and fact finding, that is the cost that it took to run payroll, to make sure everybody was paid their normal pay for each of those days. What we found out through the CARES Act, that there is an enhanced unemployment, and I've spent a lot of time visiting with the Teamsters rep to talk about, is it better for the drivers for us to pay this 65% and them to continue to stay on our payroll? And under that scenario, First Student was getting none of their overhead covered. And under the scenario where they weren't getting any overhead covered, this is happening to them across the country. So not only are they losing their revenue for their regular routes, they have activities that they're not doing. They do other types of charters. And so their whole revenue stream is gone. And so their ability to access capital and buy new buses that we need going forward, they were not going to be able to do if we were to continue under that model. So in talking with the Teamsters, who talked with the drivers, they felt they were better off going on the enhanced unemployment. And then us paying only 45%, which started today if this agreement is approved, going forward through the rest of the break. And so there were 10 days under the 65%. There would be 32 more days that we would have normally had school at 45%. And there is another part of the CARES Act that the part that I showed you where we would get $1,650,000, it says that, and I had this paragraph added, this was what happened right before the meeting, but it says that districts will pay their bus contractors to the greatest extent practicable. That is the words in the CARES Act, that we have to meet that threshold. So it doesn't seem very quantifiable to me what the greatest extent practicable is, but under this agreement, First Student is agreeing that 45% going forward is the greatest extent practicable. So the rates are spelled out in Exhibit A. So like I said earlier, this is a discussion that's happening across the country. Every district that contracts their transportation is having a discussion, and the range of pay that people are paying is anywhere from 0 to 100. I've heard both extremes, but most are landing right here in the middle somewhere, that they understand that their contractors truly are their partners. And if we want to have good bus service in the fall when we start up again, we need to help them through this. So it would be my recommendation that we agree to 65% for the first 10 days and 45% for the last 32.
Do we have a motion on the floor? Move to approve.
I second that.
And Jason, I just have one question.
Yep.
So it is our understanding that first students' intentions are to keep the people locally, keep them employed and not furlough or not lay off, or what is their plan?
So I've learned a lot about unemployment in the last few weeks. So First Student has a group of people that if they were furloughed would not be eligible for unemployment. So talking to the Teamsters, their drivers feel like they would be better off with the enhanced unemployment, but there are 27 drivers and monitors that are not eligible for unemployment. So First Student is going to furlough the majority of the drivers but maintain the other 27. And those 27 are going to be driving our 8 bus routes that we have for food, being monitors and helping to deliver that food and just continue to work during this time. But they do plan to furlough the majority of the employees.
And do you know, are they providing assistance with, is First Student providing assistance to those individuals that they're going to furlough as far as the application process and navigating that application and everything?
I think this is something that they do regularly. I think they apply for unemployment for the week that we're on spring break, and First Student doesn't protest that. So this is something that I believe their employees are used to doing during these breaks.
I can speak to that if you'd like.
Yes, thanks, Frank.
Yeah, not a problem. That is something that during spring break and summer break, there is a waiver, a job search waiver that is submitted by management, which would be Brandon in this case, for those drivers to be able to file unemployment through a job search waiver, not have to go out and look for other jobs. Brandon's been holding clinics and having people come in and help them through that unemployment application process. This last week and a half, he's been doing that, having a few people come in at a time, walking through with them how to do this and how to properly apply so they don't miss a week or two by misstepping an application for unemployment. So yes, that is happening, Ken.
Okay. And they're going to be eligible, those people would be eligible for the additional $600 a week federal subsidy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next we have resolution approving on intergovernmental cooperation agreement for investment of public funds through the Missouri Securities Investment Program. Jason?
Yep. So we had a meeting with Central Bank last week. They're our depository of record, and interest rates are virtually zero. So trying to find a way where we can earn a little bit of interest income. And we always try to do as much business locally as we can. MOSIP is the acronym for this organization. It's a pooled investment. It's an investment pool of schools around the state, all state of Missouri. Schools use this, and currently their liquid rate is just under 1%. And so not saying that we're going to move money there, but working with Central Bank, I think it's something, all this does is give us the authority to do that if we do decide that it is a good investment. So it's very safe, very liquid, and we would be working with Central Bank to make this part of our portfolio if we decided to, but something that I highly recommend right now.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Scott says second with his 2 fingers.
Okay, is there any discussion? Motion passes.
Nope, we got to vote.
Yeah.
Vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
Now passes. Sorry, I'm new at this. Next, we have future dates. We have our regular board meeting, which will be held on Monday, May 11th at 6 p.m. And now we move to
Lindsay.
Lindsay.
Okay, motion to suspend open to enter into the closed meeting by roll call vote pursuant to chapter 610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri, sections 3, hiring, firing, disciplining, 13, individually identifiable personnel records, and 14, records which are protected from disclosure by law.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Lori Massman,
Yes.
Scott Hovis,
Yes.
Hello,
Yes.
Lorelei Schwartz,
Yes.
Cindy Rowden,
Yes.
Kate Johnson,
Yes.
Brad Bates.
Yes.
You?
So Joe, do we have to log off now and then log back into the new closed session meeting?
I will end this meeting and there is a separate invitation for your closed meeting.
Great.
Oh, boy.
Take a what? 5-minute
Are
break.
we-
5.
5 minutes.
It's the
I mean,
second,
it's-
Okay.
I think
it is the
Joe, send it
updated,
again to me.
the updated invitation, correct?
Can we go downstairs now?
It would be the one that you received from Stephanie.
Yeah, but it's the second one, right? She sent out 2, so, okay.
Resend it.
Go to Jason's office?